Hi, this is D. Ramirez. Okay, so the kick and the bass are the heartbeat of house music. Get them right and your track will hit hard and groove effortlessly. Get them wrong and everything falls apart. Nailing that tight, powerful low end can be a real challenge. But don't worry, I've got you covered. In this video, I'll show you my tried and tested techniques to lock in that punchy kick and deep rolling bass that will shake any dance floor. So let's get into it. Okay, so we are back in Ableton. Look at this project, super simple. I have got 3 samples, kick, bass, and a top loop. Now this is sort of a typical real world scenario that a lot of you might find yourselves in. You're using a bass sample, kick, and a top loop. However, if you are using a synth such as Serum or whatever you use for bass, these techniques that I'm going to show you will still apply. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. Creating the bass line is a different matter altogether, and we'll look at that in a separate video. I promise I'll be doing some bass line videos sooner or later. This is just the kick and the bass interaction that we're looking at. All right, so let's take a listen. Now, let's take a listen to the bass and the kick together. I'll take the top loop off and you try and listen to how the bass and the kick interact with each other. You'll note that the bass kind of comes in and out of phase a little bit. Sometimes it's really bassy, sometimes it's not. And there's a clash between the kick and the bass. Even though I've got a very short kick drum, there's still a little sort of clash there. All right, how do we deal with it? Well, let's do this. First thing I'm going to do is duplicate my bass line channel here. I'm going to rename this bass low. Bass low, and then this is going to be bass mid. Bass mid. I'm going to work on this one. I'm going to use the FabFilter Pro Q4 for this. The Pro Q4 is... Okay, let's put that there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a high cut on here. I'm going to roll it all the way off to 100 Hertz, like that. What you can do as well is use the Q factor to get a little bit of sort of boost around that cutoff frequency there, which is a nice little trick. So let's take a listen. Let me listen on its own here. Let's take a look. We can go a little bit lower, maybe even take it down to 90 Hertz. Awesome. Take a look. I'm using a sort of quite gentle slope of 12 dB. Right? On this one, I'm now going to do the opposite. Let's take the Pro Q4. Let's solo that channel. I'm going to do a low cut, sorry, down here. I'm going to put that at around about 100 Hertz up there. I don't want the boost this time. This is going to sound like this. Okay, great. Now, when I combine these back together, can you hear that we are losing the bass? There's an issue. When you combine them together, the two cancel each other out. There's a phase problem. When you do these kind of EQ cuts like this, you cause a phase relationship issue. You can mess with the timing of the two channels. You can mess with the phase. Now, one trick that I like to use, there are many tricks, but I sometimes like to just flip the polarity on the EQ here. If you go down here, there's a little polarity. If you ever wonder what that is, just hit that. Now listen. Put them together, sorry. Magic. Now, with the polarity flipped, the phase is sort of locking together now. The little timing issues that it creates is not such an issue, it's more about the phase of the two together. So that's something to look out for. I'm not using anything particularly fancy on the plugin. I'm just using a normal 0 latency, but it's the phase that I want to look out for there. Okay, so let's go back to the low one. I'm going to use my favorite compressor, which is the LA2 by Universal Audio. LA2A silver compressor. Put that after the EQ. Now, the reason I put it after the EQ is because I don't want to EQ the full signal, as in the whole thing. I want to EQ the low signal. And I'm using the LA2A because it's a valve compressor, and valve compressors are really good at sort of keeping in the low frequency. Sometimes some compressors will remove the low end. This one doesn't, I find. And it also, it has a very slow attack, so it doesn't create sort of any distortion on the attack phase. So now take a look at the level. Without moving around quite a bit, with locked in. I can actually push that a bit harder. Locked in. I've created that really sort of solid bottom end. Now the next thing I want to do as well on this is I'm just going to loop the first section. You'll notice in the second section, look how it goes quiet there. Something happens there. So I'm just going to loop around that first section. All right, let me close that down. The same happens here on this one. We're just going to loop around this first section here, like so. Okay. Now, the two together. Awesome. Now I can add some harmonics to this top end. I can do whatever I want with this mid bass. I can put any kind of plug in. However, I'm going to do this before the EQ this time because I want to keep that the polarity switch going on. So I'm going to use the DR audio effects, right? DR decap. I'm going to put that before. Right. Okay. In fact, let's try it after. Let's just make sure that that works okay. There is a polarity switch on the utilities here. Look what I've got here. Because the decapitator is calibrated to -18, I want the level of it to be -18. So I'm turning it down by -18 and then I'm turning it back up again by +18. Okay, I'm doing it after the EQ because I've had all the low end taken out of it, so I want to just saturate the top end, not the low end. Okay, you'll get a totally different sound if you saturate it after EQ as you would do pre-EQ. Okay, so let's turn up this drive. I want to take the auto switch off. Let me just listen on its own. Try out the different ones. Pentoed, 2 mid, triode, 2 distorted. Don't know what E is. E always kind of works really well, but I like I think I like A. Let's go with that one. Let's make sure the level is matched. Awesome. Yep. 2 together. Let's try them out. Okay, let's take that out solo. Brilliant. Now, I want to create a stereo bass. Stereo bass, you say, Dean? What is this sorcery you speak of? You're not supposed to make bass stereo? Well, you can, and I'll show you how. So let me duplicate that channel there. I'm going to go bass stereo. Now, this is a technique I got from Streaky. Thank you, Streaky. It's not my technique, but it's awesome. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create what I've got. I'm going to put that... Yeah, okay, there we go. So I'm going to put a dimension plugin, which is a sort of form of chorus. So I'm going to use the Arturia one. I'm going to put that there before the... Actually, no, I'm going to put it at the end, and I'm going to move this around because I want the EQ to be at the very end. What I want to do, firstly, I'm going to change this to a brick wall. Okay, the slope there is going to be brick wall. I'm going to change it to mid. Stereo placement mid, and I'm going to remove all of the mid frequencies. So if we now listen to this in solo, you should hear, if I play it, that would help. It's just isolated the sides. What I can also do as well is actually put another low cut down here. Let's go low cut, this time in the stereo information, side there. Take out some of that low-end stereo information. And that's literally magic, isn't it? So now I've got just a stereo. If I can mix this in. That's magic. Now that stereo technique there can be used for any channel, but it's probably better if you set it up as a return effect. The return effect, then you can use it on a vocal, on a synth, on any channel you actually want to, and all you will get is the side information. You can stereoize mono mono channels without making them louder in the mid-range, in the middle, sorry. Okay, so we've got 3. We've got now perfect control over our bass. We can add more sub in there if we want. We can bring down the, okay, so now I'm going to group these together. I'm going to call this bass group. Onto my next plugin, which is going to be the Max Bass by Waves. Max Bass I'll put there, and I'm just going to go straight to my favorite presets, or one of my favorite presets on the Max Bass. There it is. Okay, let's put that down the way, and this is going to be Dave Pensado Max Bass 1. I'm going to bring down the level of the input. Now this makes it a bit more girthular. Love a bit of girth. Who doesn't? Okay, great. Awesome. Now the next thing we want to do, I want to bring that bass group down a bit, because of course it's a little bit loud for the kick, so. Awesome. On the kick drum I'm going to open up an oscilloscope. I'll put that there. This is an awesome technique to actually be able to check, and I'm going to put another one as well on the bass group. Okay, so what we can do with this oscilloscope is, firstly I'm going to make it a lot bigger, like this. Let's get this so we can see it. I'm going to colour my kick drum in red and leave my bass in blue. I'm going to combine them together, overlay them. I'm going to put it into the fast mode, and now when I play the two, we can see how the kick and the bass are interacting. And that blue area over the red area is where the two are playing together, and that is a problem. Now the bass isn't that loud. You can see that the kick is very sort of spiky and transient, so we've got quite a nice level going on there. But however, we have got to deal with that. One of the classic techniques, if I put that out there, is to use sidechain, and I like to use the one called Duck by Devious Machines. I'll put that down there. Now if I put that before the oscilloscope, we can see what's happening. I'm going to use this shape. It's a very transparent shape. It means that it sort of fades in the bass rather than it being a more of a pumping sort of sidechain. The pumping sidechain is boo woo woo. It does that. And then now look, let's take a look. Awesome. We've still got that little bass going on there, so we can take this a stage further. The next thing I want to do now is open up another instance of Pro Q4. Pro Q4, put that there before the oscilloscope after Duck, and I'm going to set the sidechain input from the kick. Alright, sidechain input, and we can now see the red shaded area is where the two are clashing. And what I want to do here is I want to set an EQ point, and I'm going to make it dynamic. And I'm now going to bring it down in Q. Look, it brought the Q factor down a little bit. And I'm going to set this so if I hit the little arrow there, I've got the sidechain button there. Watch, and now what happens? Every time the kick hits, it reduces the frequency at the clashing frequency. Only when the kick hits. It's a dynamic process that only works when it needs to. Awesome. And a new feature with Pro Q4 is this: it has an adjustable attack and release time, so I want these both as fast as possible. So it's making that as transparent as possible. Now it's not getting rid of all of it. You don't want to go too crazy because you would then lose all of the bass. And it's only when the kick hits. Remember, the kick is so short and so transient that you won't even hear it. Okay, awesome. Great. Okay, so that's those two taken care of. Now I'm going to group this whole lot together. Command G. I'm going to call this kick and bass group. Bass group, and I can take this even a stage further. We can use Pro MB, which is a FabFilter multiband compressor. I'm going to put that there. I'm going to set a point there. I'm going to make that to about 90 hertz roughly. A very fast attack, not fastest. You don't want to create distortion. Let's solo it so we can hear it. With off. So let me just bring up the volume because there is a volume difference. Great. I'm going to set another band here, this time around to about 300 hertz, this one, so it takes care of the more mid-range bass. This one, I want it set slightly differently. I want a slow attack, and a fast release, so it's letting the punch through before it compresses it. Sort of makes it a little bit more twangy around that section there. You could even bring out the top end of the kick drum as well if you wanted to set up a section around here. Let me put that at 0. Look at that, I'm using that like an EQ basically. I'm just sort of increasing the top end. That little click on the kick helps it sort of cut through a bit. Great, bring in your top loop. Now we can compare between the two. Take that off, let's play this. Okay, that's the original kick and bass. Let's take a listen to our new kick and bass and see if we can tell the difference. Listen to that, tight, compressed, everything's working together. We've got some stereo information in the bass as well. And best of all, we can actually control the level of all of these. If we want more sub bass, we can do. If we want less mid bass, we can do. Whatever you want. If you want more stereo bass, you can do. It's all controllable. It's all tight. It's all compressed. It's got all the frequencies we need. And we're good to go. So that was one of my techniques that I like to use for kick and bass relationships. Of course, this is a subject that's deep and I love to learn myself, so please let me know in the comments how you like to process your kick and bass. And if you have any questions, please hit me up. I'll be happy to ask them. I think that the beauty of these kind of videos is that we can all learn from this together. So let's do that.